You're like, okay, guys, this is
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Lofi-Live presents Does Development Matter by my political science class of Politics of Developing Areas. Tonight we are going to put on a show for you, followed by food and drinks and beverages. Our show is simple. We have one question, one theme that we go with. Does development really matter? And of course, throughout all the different segments we have, we'll talk about what is development, and we'll talk about it in different ways, but in fun ways too. Like when we say development, what do we mean? Do we mean economic development? Do we mean political development? Do we mean human development? We mean all those things and more. So sit back, relax. We're going to have some trivia for you. We're going to have a few guess this top 10 list for you. Then we're going to have our results from an internal poll of our class about what are the most important issues for us. And we'll talk about the results of those polls. And then we'll have a Q&A section with all of you. And if all of you are too timid to ask questions, or you were asked not to ask questions, please ask all the questions that you want. But if not, we also have backup questions that we will talk about, questions that our students are interested in answering. So just relax, enjoy yourself, and be happy to be in a place of nerdisms. That's right, we're all nerds here. If you showed up here, you are a nerd. You are amongst nerds. It is okay to be a nerd. That's right, that's what we're here for. But before we jump into it, I always like to start off with something we call Lo-Fi Global News. Just 5 quick picks of what's going on in the world today. And for, sadly, the past 3 years of these shows, I've always had to start off with the country of Haiti and update everyone every single time. And there are more updates about Haiti. And the general consensus is Haiti is not doing that well right now, and has not been doing that well since 2021 in the summer when their president was assassinated. Currently, there are United Nations peacekeeping forces there that are battling gangs for control of the country. They are not doing well. In many cases, when the United Nations shows up somewhere, things get worse before they get better. Right now, we are in the worst portion of it, and things are getting worse. So keep your eyes open on Haiti, because now there is an international effort to try and improve things and install a government. Because right now, there is no functioning government in the country. Next up, let's move out to Sudan, a country that is also in the middle of a civil war right now. And remember, this is Sudan, not South Sudan. South Sudan, though, is almost in the middle of a civil war, too. But in Sudan, it was just discovered that French weapons systems were inside of the country, being used by one of the sides of the civil war. You may be thinking, well, of course, the West sells weapons to everyone. The United States sells weapons to Ukraine. What's the big deal about that? The big deal is the United Nations has an embargo on sending weapons to Sudan, which France is signed onto that embargo. And yet, there are French weapons there. How? Why? It's almost as if the West is motivated by money or something like that. Go figure, the French. Now let's go to, not far, Somalia. And how many of you have ever heard of a country called Somaliland? That's a trick question. Is there a country called Somaliland? Oh, that's what this one's about. See, Somalia is a country. Somaliland is a breakaway area within Somalia. And Somaliland is just having presidential elections. If you're having presidential elections as a breakaway portion of a country, but that country cannot do anything to stop you, what does that say about the country of Somalia? Question mark? Right? And before you ask, I know what you're going to ask. You're going to say, well, does anyone actually recognize Somaliland as a country? And the answer is yes. Yes, there's someone out there who does. A little country called Taiwan. That's right, everyone ever heard of Taiwan? Yes. Are they a country? Are they not a country? We might find out tonight, or we might not find out tonight. And let's take a little bit easier and less serious stuff. Out in Japan, we recently heard news that this is going to happen all night long, so just bear with us. Like I told my students earlier, imagine you're at a university with no money and imagine what kind of microphones they would have. Then stop imagining and that's where you are, okay? And that's how we roll, all right? So out in Japan, we just found out that UNESCO, the UN World Heritage Foundation, said that sake, if you know what sake is, it's rice wine. Of course, you're college students, you all know what sake is. Don't drink and drive, people, okay? Don't drink and drive. But sake has now been added to the UNESCO World Heritage status. That's right, because they've been making sake for the same way over 3,000 years. I find this interesting because the United Nations can't stop wars in Haiti, but they can preserve sake in Japan. Take from that what you will, United Nations. And then a last little piece of news is actually an update to something I talked about on a previous Lofi-Live event. Months and months ago this past summer, 2 individuals in the UK spray paint in orange Stonehenge. Did anyone read about this? It was just like a small little blip. It's like, who would ever spray paint Stonehenge? Well, someone did. And potentially it was for protesting climate and the inactivity of the UK government for not doing much on climate change. These 2 people have been officially charged now. And it's what they're being charged with that I think is interesting. The first part I get. Charged with destroying or damaging an ancient protected monument. Like, that's not serious, right? That's like, yeah, how dare you? The second part, I don't know. And intentionally or recklessly causing a public nuisance. It's like, really? That's below the standard of spray painting Stonehenge. I think you could just focus on the protecting monuments of ancient status. But that's our quick little glimpse at the world, but we're going to be looking a lot more at the world as we move forward. Now we're going to start off with trivia, and people, put your hands together, please, for our trivia folks. And Amanda, Sam, and Nicole, come on up. How are we this evening? We doing all right?
Anxious.
Anxious, nervous? I feel you. All right, so who wants to go first? Each one of you have 3 questions for our audience. So these are trivia questions for you to answer. Just call them out. You don't have to raise your hands. Just say it in a loud voice. I got this one. All right? Who wants to go first with your 3?
Me. I'll go first. Okay. Let's start with one that kind of relates to the theme. What country has the highest hourly minimum wage out of all the countries? Anyone know?
Guesses are welcome. We don't anticipate you have this just in the back of your head, but guess.
Switzerland?
Did I hear Australia?
I think you did, from the back of the room, yes.
Well, whoever was in the back of the room, you are right. It's Australia.
Next one.
Here's a fun one. In what South African country did a recent mayoral debate feature one opponent hitting the other with a chair?
That's intense politics for you. Really. Anyone saw any? Jamari in the back there. What you got?
No.
Not South Africa.
I said South American.
I thought you said South Africa too.
Did I misspeak? My bad.
Okay, South American country where they're taking wrestling into politics. Jamari again.
Argentina?
No. The answer is Brazil.
Brazil always has hot topic politics. All right, that's a good one. What you got for your 3rd one?
All right, this is probably the hardest hitting one of the night. Like Mr. P fired. Dr. P. Sorry. I'm so anxious. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Just don't get me fired.
I will. I'm trying not to, man. Okay. All right. How many United Nations member states recognize Palestine as a sovereign state?
Most of them.
I mean, that's not wrong, but I'm kind of looking for a number. I'll give you a ballpark estimate, something.
140.
Close. I'll take one more guess.
160?
A little lower. The answer is 146.
That's a lot. That's about 75% of the countries. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Sam. And who's going next with your 3 questions? Amanda?
What percentage of the world lives in developing countries?
Ooh, so developing countries.
70%.
A little higher than that.
90%.
Close.
86.
85.
85% of the world lives in developing countries. That's of 8 billion people. Think about that for a moment.
And then how many countries are developing countries out of that percentage? So how many countries overall?
15%.
A number. How many countries?
170?
A little lower than that.
103? 140?
A little higher than 140.
130.
It's 152.
152 countries in the world are developing. And about how many countries are there, Lofi Poli Sci? Thank you for remembering that. That's a big takeaway for us. So out of 200 countries in the world, 152 are developing countries.
All right. And the last one's a little more fun. Which developing country has more horses than it does people?
Please repeat that question.
Which developing country has more horses than it does people? Oh, wow. Okay, never mind. Yep, she got it.
Hey, Mongolia it is. Well done, well done. All right, what do we have next? Nicole?
All right, I don't bite, I give hints. Don't be afraid to ask. So my first question is, what country is currently changing its flag?
Give us a hint.
It was part of the Soviet Union.
That narrows it down to about 18 countries, if you know which they are.
No. Farther south. Farther east.
That's it, pull up your map of that area.
Jamiri? No. It's Kyrgyzstan.
Ooh, all right, all right.
What language did the word vampire originate from? Jamiri? Not German. Or not German. No, but good guess.
Is it Latin?
No, Serbian.
Serbian is the language where vampire word came from. Interesting, interesting.
And for now a rather depressing one, what country has the highest total outstanding debt to the IMF? Y'all want to hit? It's not Haiti.
Is it the U.S.?
Jamari?
Sri Lanka?
No.
Did someone say the U.S.? No, China owns all our debt, not the IMF.
It's in South America.
Come on. All of you know this. It's a country that has been in economic turmoil for decades. Wow, besides them.
It's Argentina, owing over $31 billion.
Yes, excellent, excellent. But now we're going to switch things around a little bit. They asked all of you 9 questions. Now I'm going to ask them a question and see if they can get it. And if they can't, maybe I'll give them a little bit of hint, or they can ask you for help. But here we go. According to the United Nations, the Human Development Index, which is a compound variable of life expectancy, average life expectancy, average years of schooling, and GNI per capita with PPP 2017 values. Which country has the highest HDI in the world?
Finland?
It is not Finland, but come on, let's see if you 3 can get it first. Finland would have been a great guess, by the way.
Thanks for eliminating that. I was actually going to guess Finland.
Is it Denmark?
It is not.
Sweden.
It is not. You're in the right neighborhood, though. Switzerland it is. Switzerland has an HDI of 0.967. And remember, 1.0 is the highest you can get. They have an average life expectancy of 84.3 years, average years of schooling of 13.9, and a GNI per capita with PPP, 69,433. Good job. Well done. And no, I did not give them the answer before, so they pulled out on their own. But everyone, put your hands together for our trivia team. Thank you so much for your questions. And the trivia section I love, but it's really come from, right now we have a segment that is, instead of Lo-Fi Global News, we do Lo-Fi Trivia, which I pull 5 international headlines and turn them into trivia questions, and I force my students to take quizzes on them. And see if they actually listen to what's going on in the world today, but make them read it for fun. So I think trivia is a fun little way to go about it. But now, let's welcome our resident graduate student. Yes, we have 1 graduate student in our class. Andrew, come on up to give us your top 10s. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are
How's
you?
the life of graduate school?
It's amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
Would you advise any undergrads to do undergraduate school?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was the most
I want to share
yes.
the joy. So yes, as many that want to join grad school, please.
Yes, yes. I did grad school for a very, very long time. I would definitely advise it for sure. But Andrew, what are you getting us into tonight? What do you have for us?
All right, I have two top 10 lists, so you're going to try to guess the category after I read the list, and I'm going to give you a couple hints as well. All right, so ready? First list, Aruba, Maldives, Macau, Antigua and Barbados, Seychelles, Bahamas, Qatar, Tonga, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Croatia. And your first hint is close your eyes and picture being in these countries. What do they make you think of? That's related to the category. All right.
What is closing your eyes to Aruba, Maldives, Macau, Antigua and Barbados, Seychelles, Bahamas, Qatar, Tonga, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Croatia? What do you think about when you see that?
Tourist spots?
What was that?
Tourist spots?
Wow. Yes.
Well done,
That's
Rihanna.
amazing. Yes, that's the highest percentage of tourism per GDP. So
well
that's
done, well
amazing.
done.
Yeah, very good. I wasn't expecting it to be that quick.
No kidding.
We're going to be done pretty soon.
What were your other two hints, by the way?
My other two hints were the second one was this was a ranking based off of percentage of GDP, and my third one was considering this list, the data came from 2020. This was likely affected by COVID a lot because I looked at the data and it was 2020. I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And so those were my other hints.
Excellent, excellent. Well, what do you have for us with your second list?
All right, second list is Cuba, China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Madagascar, Myanmar, Haiti, North Korea, Sri Lanka, and the Philippines. And your first hint is it's not the most authoritarian countries in the world. It's probably what you were thinking.
Yes. Cuba, China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Madagascar, Myanmar, Haiti, North Korea, Sri Lanka, and the Philippines. And if you can tell me the real name of North Korea, we'll give you a second hint.
The Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
There you go, that's right. Democratic Republic of, North Korea. Yeah, they love their democracy there. All right, so what's the second hint then?
These aren't the most accepting countries out there. That's the second hint.
So it's not a list of the most authoritarian.
Countries with the most restrictive visas.
Ooh, that's close.
Very close.
That's very close. Go ahead with the third hint.
Third hint is if xenophobia was high in a country, what would you expect it to be affected? What would you expect to be affected by that?
Immigration?
Bingo. So
Yes.
what's this list?
The list is the lowest percentage of immigration population.
Oh, excellently done, excellently done. And what made you choose these two lists? And I think this does development matter. Why immigration and why tourism?
I was just, because my thesis kind of focused on tourism, so that's kind of where my head was, to be honest, and so that's why I picked the first one, and I wanted to pick something that kind of contrasted it for the second one, so it had some positive and then a little bit of negative, and so that's kind of what made me pick these.
Oh, that's a great reason, because immigration is a huge topic right now, everywhere, right? It's not like we haven't heard it in our own country before, but we're not talking about that place south of Canada, north of Mexico, whatever that place is called, we don't know. But for developing areas, tourism is huge. Right now, one of the big ways that developing countries are trying to increase their income is ecotourism. So especially post-COVID, how countries are developing their tourism industries, it's miraculous what they're going into in a sustainable way, which by the way, if you didn't vote, don't forget to vote. We have these 17 United Nations Development Goals at our table that we are gonna pull in during social hour, and we have stickers. And there's 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. Put a star sticker next to the one that you think is the most important of the 17. And newsflash, there is one correct answer. But Andrew, thank you very much. We appreciate it with your top 10 list. Everyone put your hands together for Andrew. And next up, let's welcome Imshay and Janae doing our reporting on poll results from our class, because aren't we tired of hearing about polls in general? Yes, put your hands together. Welcome them. Everyone needs courage. How are we doing tonight? Yes, yes.
Well, how's everybody else doing?
Well,
Yay!
Thumbs up and stuff like, yeah, I'm so nerdy. Should I clap? Should I do like snaps? Like, what's the cool thing to do? It doesn't matter, do whatever. And so what are we getting into here?
We're going to be getting into the art issues in words. We did a poll of a few questions that we asked the class. and we're gonna see what everybody's responses were. So
Take us away.
the first question that we asked is, what is the biggest problem in the world right now? It was pretty clear that most people thought the biggest issue in the world right now was war. A lot of people said things like just war, the occupation in Palestine, Ukraine, nuclear war, lots of things along that line. And then we've also got things like climate change and gender inequality being really big issues.
Elections. We also had, like I said, gender equality, women's rights. It's just the political climate of the world right now. There's just so much going on. You can't really narrow down one issue to where we can pick just one.
Yeah.
So it was just really interesting to see everybody's opinions of what was important.
Interesting. And what else did the data tell us? Any spotlights that you really want to talk about?
One that really stuck out to me was world peace.
I love that, and I didn't write that. Did I take the survey? No, I didn't. I didn't put my 2 cents in. World peace should still be a goal.
The reason why that one stuck out for me was because it was like a one-fit-all kind of question. So when you really think about it, when it comes to world peace, do you mean like gender equality and climate change? Do you want to talk about the political aspects of how the world reacts to it? It's just a lot going on right now.
Right. World peace doesn't necessarily mean the same thing to everyone, right? Like when I think world peace, I don't think no more war. But really, shouldn't it possibly be more than that? Like in order for everyone to be at peace, you need more than just not war. You need things like equality. You need things like healthcare, basic needs. And that was something, that's my water. My water's now dead to me. So all of you know that I'm a germaphobe like no other, so I will not even touch that until I spray it with my Lysol, which I do have baby Lysol spray if anyone needs some, just to let you know. What else do we have to say?
That's ahead of my notes.
Yeah, for that question, that was the main concern.
Okay, what other questions do we have?
All right, so our next question was, do you support or agree with the new advancements in the world of AI in the past few years? So it was more, how can I say this, like everybody had their own opinions and everybody has their feel about how AI, especially I know I'm bringing pop culture, like how with the new Wicked with Cynthia, how she didn't like how AI was transforming the posters. And other people were like, it's just the new world now. So how can we approach AI in a sense when it comes to political science? Like, do we trust what's out there in the world, basically?
A lot of people really disagree with all of the new advancements in AI, but they also said stuff like, well, we like it for our homework.
But all of you know from my classes, you have to turn in your papers and everything to turn it in assignments. And you should know, if you don't know, that it does give me the percent of AI that you use. And as you read on my syllabi, it's not usable in our class. But is it useful?
I don't
Absolutely.
use AI like that. Do you use AI?
Oh yes, I've had several people turn in high percentages AI usage on their papers. I see some of you laughing because it probably was you, wasn't it? You know what I mean? So that. What's our next one?
So we've got, what do we think the best way to combat climate change is? This one was absolutely a mixed bag. Everybody had a different opinion on what they thought the best way to deal with it was. Some people said like taking down big corporations. Some people talked about adding clean energy into the way that we handle things. So it was very different. Everyone had a different opinion, but it was just a mixed bag.
Yeah, climate change really is a really sensitive topic because there's so many ways some people say like you can combat climate change. They say get rid of the oil, get rid of go to electric cars. But when it comes to climate change, is it really just one individual person when it comes to making an effort in a sense. Like, and when it comes to like the findings, I really was fascinated that nobody really pointed out corporations, like how corporations really are like
The most evil of
the
evil
most
things.
evil when it comes to climate change.
Yes, I know that's what all you students are thinking. Down with corporations.
Yeah, but like you know, like they say, like oh, it's just you need to turn off your water, you need to turn off your lights, so you stop using gas. Like no, like you're the ones that providing it. Why don't you just change the layout? So maybe as a whole, we can start combating climate change. It's not just one singular issue, one person.
Well said, well said. And at the end of the show, the table team, I'm going to ask how many people voted for the climate sustainable goal and see how that is. Right now it's leading? Yeah. Okay, we'll see that at the end if it's the same way. And there is going to be someone at the end of the show and during social hour walking around with climate surveys for UNO to see what you think about sustainable goals for UNO itself. And if you want your voice in the climate, start local, then go big. What's our next question?
Why do you think the world turns to the United States with expectations for hope instead of the United Nations? Basically money.
Is that what most people said?
Money, basically.
The reason why people go to the US instead of the United Nations?
Basically, like they were saying that capitalism plays a huge role in a way. Like you say, the United Nations is with Haiti right now, but they're not really doing much of an effort versus the United States. You know, when people turn to the United States, they're like, I want immediate results, basically. Where the United Nations are like, let's take some big baby steps. Nah, we got nip this in the bud.
People really see the United States. I'm reading a response right now. People are saying that the United States is seen as like a superhero. Like it has a lot of power in the global economy, and we just have a really big presence here in the United States. I think that it's impactful.
I think we have a really big GDP as well. Yeah. Who has the second largest GDP in the world? Well done, well done. And who has the first? That place south of Canada, north of Mexico. That's right. Yes. What's our next one?
If you had the chance to solve one crisis, which would it be? Climate change, disarmament, or gender equality? And this one really surprised me because I honestly thought it was going to be gender equality, but it was disarmament. That was the most, and then climate change was second, and gender equality was last. A lot of people, it was pretty close between disarmament and climate change, but a lot of people are really upset with the war and occupations happening in countries across the world right now, and I think that's on a lot of people's minds. So that was the top response.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. The issue where people are losing their homes due to war, famine, occupations from different countries. Basically, gender equality and climate change were basically pushed to the back, in my opinion, because why even focus on that if you don't even have the people to prevent it? So.
Excellent, excellent point. Thank you, thank you. We have time for one more question.
It's good because it's our last one.
Awesome, awesome. What's our last question that we asked the class?
Okay. Do you believe the world would be a better place if every country was a democracy, or would problems still arise? Problems will still arise, y'all.
Can we do that poll here? How many of you think if the world was all democracies, we'd be singing Kumbaya? Any hands, any hands? No bars?
Hey,
No?
you gotta believe her.
It's a true democracy, but we've talked about how a true democracy doesn't exist in the world.
You are absolutely right. Jamari?
Democracy is not technically a political, it's not invincible. It's not invincible.
Make me smile. Tell me that word, that democracy, if it's fake and doesn't real, what's the real word for democracy?
Polyarchy.
Thank you. Yes, polyarchy. Dahl, 1973. If you know it, you know it. What were our numbers in the class? Was it mostly yay democracy or?
No.
Most people don't think that I mean, there are going to be problems regardless of the type of government, democracy or otherwise.
So I guess there's no hope. Maybe we'll find it in the next segment. Janae and MJ, thank you so much for telling us what's going on with past and laws. Now, please welcome for the Q&A section of the show, Jeremiah and Xavier. Come on up. How are we doing this evening?
Well, fine. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. What time is it?
Nervous time. Very nervous.
6:06? That sounds like nervous time too. Yeah. It's all right. It's fine to be nervous. I mess up in this all the time. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So what are we here to do today?
We're here to answer some audience questions. So you can pick a range of topics. You can pick development questions. You can ask about current events or just anything that you're curious about.
So to the crowd we go. Any questions about what's going on in the world today? Come on, you're amongst nerds and friends. You can ask it. We're probably all thinking it too.
There it is.
No question. No, we have 2 questions.
So my question is about climate change. The United States is probably about to pull out of the Paris Climate Accords again. Do you think that's going to affect everyone else's progress on climate change globally, or what do you think the impact of that will be?
Well, I think we do have a good foot forward right now. I think it is one of the leading issues that people care about, and I think just because there's other countries stepping up right now, and no matter the heart behind the next administration to come in, people aren't just going to let the progress be lost just because even if it's a small amount of growth, like people do see that it is changing and that there is like hope.
And we almost don't have a choice but to care and be involved. So even if the next administration is not very climate friendly, the hurricanes we've been having here will force some sort of change along those lines.
That's a very positive outlook. I like it. I like it. You're giving me hope. Like I said, all of you know I've given up on my generation for caring. So I am so hoping for all of you to care. We have another question over here.
So with the evolution of how AI is going, it's nothing now, but potentially could you see it as a tool for other countries to use to gain a step up?
I think so. I mean, honestly, we have to look at AI in a few different lenses. If we're talking about AI in terms of what a computer can already do, but just by itself, there's a few different outlets that a country could take to get a step up, but it really depends on what. If we're talking about machine learning and comprehending other countries' languages to interpret their sensitive materials, we can kind of already do that. But the AI we've been given now is mainly just Wendy's chatbots that take your order and they tell you, yeah, thanks for coming to Wendy's, you had a good time here.
Yeah, I like to go the opposite route just because I say for advancement in technology, it takes 2. It takes software and then it takes programming. And we can look at China, for example, the abundant resources they have to build things and just natural resources, but they're still buying military grade self-processing chips for fighter jets from us. Most people don't have both halves of the whole, and so you need the complete whole to get advancement, and the world just isn't privileged to have that, and we kind of do have a unfair stake in the game by having both pieces. So unless someone just miraculously gets both ends, I don't think it'll just miraculously change the world.
And I'll chime in on this one too, just briefly to say that, hands up in the back, what's that for? Oh, okay, gotcha. AI as it's defined today is not the same that AI was defined 30 years ago. AI used to be called artificial intelligence, as in intelligence that is artificial, that was self-aware, and that could make its own choices like its own brain. It had its own consciousness. Today, when we say AI, generally we are talking about a glorified version of predictive text, or something that can add on to something within the parameters that is given to it. It's not AI in the form of, if anyone remembers that cheesy 80s movie called Terminator, and then they've been remaking Terminators ever since. It's not that kind of AI. So does AI have the capability to change the world? In a limited way, especially in the eyes of development and helping developing areas. Question?
So do you think that IMF loans or any sort of foreign aid that needs to be paid back actually helps developing countries, or do you think it more so puts them in a deeper hole?
Oh, that's a good question. As a finance major, I
love that qualifier.
Every sort of loan, and I think when it comes to developing countries, because interest on loans, if you didn't know this, is calculated daily. Your credit card interest is calculated daily. So, we're giving loans to people who are not in a situation to even remotely pay them if things were good. And we're giving these loans on the hope that, if we give this money, then things may turn around. But most of the time, from what I've seen, they don't turn around, and then we end up having to forgive these loans. So I would say instead of giving loans, we need to give grants and donations, because the thought of getting any kind of substantive return from a developing country is like handing a 10-year-old $10,000 and saying, hey, don't go spend this on candy, but bring me 11 grand back, in my opinion, as a finance major.
Definitely agree with Xavier. Like, I want more grants, and I think anybody would take free money. But these developing countries, they don't really have the time to process, okay, like maybe we should wait it out and look for a better solution. Like, the world is drastic. Like, people's lives are at stake, and so you don't really have the time to process, okay, is this loan the best thing that I can do, or should I wait it out? Should I see if someone's gonna give us a grant? And so I think we just have to put it in perspective, like, if it's your only option, maybe down the long run you have to wait for loan forgiveness, but when you don't have anywhere else to turn, it's kind of like a lose-lose situation. You either let people die from starvation, from health issues by not having good infrastructure, or you take the loan, and most people, that is their only option, and it's a really awful option. It's an option that does eventually hurt the next generation, but when it's your only option, you can only think of right now, and I think it honestly takes the bigger powers in the world to open their lens from just where they are right now.
Yeah, and I'll just add one more thing.
As a finance major,
especially in the United States, we are at a point to where we can give out money without the expectation of a return. And we really also need to rethink what the word return means, right? When Wall Street talks about return, they're talking about dollar on dollar return. Sometimes you can get a return that is a social benefit. You can get social cred, street cred, as they like to say, as a return. That is a substantive return on investment. It's hard to measure, but it is something that we should be looking for.
I think the business school just kicked you out.
I'm so anti-finance.
Good answers for both of you. Good answers. Out in the back, we had a question.
Yeah. So we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, and they want to put this out a while ago, and they said by 2030 we're going to have these implemented in most countries. They're going to be so much better, optimistically speaking. Do you think by 2030 we'll be there, and countries will be in a better position? We'll be having all these 17 goals in every developing area in the world, or how do you see the UN's role in specifically implementing these goals in this developing area?
Let's go with quick yes nos.
As a film major, I'd say it's a hard no. It's almost nearly impossible, but it is a good hope to look towards.
I'm going to say no too. I wholeheartedly disagree with the United Nations. 17 was too many. We should have picked one being, sustainable energy, because you need energy as a foundation for everything else that it is that you do.
I like it. We have hands right here.
Not
question is it developing countries' responsibility to develop sustainably? Or should they be able to go through cycles that developed countries already go through?
Yes. Well, it takes too much time. Like I said earlier, people are dying. It's a sad reality that we kind of just can't grasp sitting here in this beautiful room on a college campus, and it kind of just happen fast, and you don't really have that time. And so, when you're trying to rush it, there's obviously going to be places where like it's likely that you will fail, but also you don't really have another option because you don't want people around you to die.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I kind of concur with that. Because you kind of run into the problem where you have developing countries that'll find like a natural resource, like Guyana and oil, right? They are in the process of drilling and starting that process, and like we know how dirty that process is when it comes to the carbon emissions and things like that. What I can hope for them is that they do that, just not as bad as we have done it. Now that we have technologies such as carbon sequestration and some other carbon removing tactics to kind of bring up that oil in cleaner fashion.
Excellent done, excellently done. Another question in the far back? Yes.
Okay. Since we talked about AI, right? Japan being the mecca that it is when it comes to technology, do you think that we are catching up with them, or do you think that we were ahead of them and that we're just implementing stuff that they already had?
That's a good question. In terms of catching up, I think it's hard to measure where countries are in terms of each other because we don't spend our money equally, right? The United States disproportionately spends massive amounts, almost to the tune of $832 billion on the military and military adjacent things. If we put that into education, research, and development, I think we'd be in a very different place. But that's not something that we prioritize in the United States. Whereas countries such as Japan or other technologically advanced countries, maybe China even, they're putting more of their resources and focus into research and development, and so that's how they're getting, I wouldn't say advanced technologies, but just different technologies.
Yeah, because like there's a argument like Xavier said, we put most of our money into the military infrastructure, and like we undoubtedly have the most advanced military technologies in the world, and no one's going to catch up with that, at least for this foreseeable future. And when we have stealth chips that people are just looking at like, how is this even possible? It's hard to argue and compare. It's like comparing oranges and apples. Like you can't compare domestic and things that people use to military advancements. And so it's like they're both advanced in their own ways, and whatever one helps the country the most, that's the one kind of at the top. So.
I like that answer. And as a comparativist poli-sci person, I compare apples and oranges all the time. They're all fruit. I will compare the planet Pluto, which is a planet, to an orange, if I so please. Spheres. Yes. All right, hands over here.
I want to ask, what's your view on healthcare and education in the U.S. being like extremely like over the top when it comes to like, pricing? Do you think it'll ever be free one day, like in other countries?
As a finance major, what do you have to say?
Yeah, they're gonna kick me out of the business school. I absolutely abhor how expensive healthcare is in this country. Healthcare is a basic, fundamental right of any developed society. And if the U.S. is gonna call itself a developed society, then it needs to start acting in that way. When I look at healthcare, I look at it in terms of what I was talking to earlier, is the social return, right? If you have a system where healthcare is provided for people, you then have healthy workers. Healthy workers then produce healthy, productive outcomes, and then those healthy, productive outcomes then produce healthy, productive profits, right? But we're living in a system now where you have broken and battered people who are going to work producing broken and battered outcomes, and that then gives you broken and battered profits that you then have to price gouge and do all these other basically accounting whoop-de-whoos to make the money make sense, when you can just treat your workers right and treat your people right, make sure they're healthy and happy, and then everything else down the line becomes healthy and happy.
No, it's very gross. We have the most sustainable economy on the planet, and at this point, it's literally just a choice. And until people are forced to enact it, because it will cost money. Like, no one's saying that it won't cost, but there is the economy that is self-sustaining for it to happen. And honestly, it just takes activism. That honestly, it should happen. It needs to happen. And until we force them, they have seen that they can get away without it happening. And big corp.
All right, one last question. In the back. Yes. Although it did kind of look like someone was holding your hand up for you, so maybe not you?
Should we worry about China trying to make colonies on the moon, or no?
Excellent question. As a film major, why don't you answer that first?
Well, as a film major, I 100% know that we staged the moon landing. So
it was a Tarantino film, right?
Exactly. So I think it was Star Wars. They already have them. But honestly, I think we have enough problems here. The race to the moon, or the race back to the moon, or the race to Mars, it is just rich people throwing money at each other. And like when we have issues like healthcare not being accessible to everyone, like it's honestly just a slap in the face to the people that fund their corporations, and it is disgusting. And yeah.
Xavier, as a finance major, will China colonize the moon?
The numbers on the moon, like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it just does not make sense. It is astronomically expensive to put people and things on the moon and make it make sense. And I've never really seen a benefit to putting people in space. Like, it just seems like another thing.
Here, we got the microwave out of it.
Yeah, do we?
Yeah, I know. After saying that, I'm like, using a microwave to cook your food is not necessarily the best
Yeah,
thing.
but then we got TV dinners and so
Right.
I'm not a fan of space. I like it here. I hope we take care of this planet here. Let's keep it green. Let's not, mess it up for real. Then we have to go.
Excellent. Well, everyone, please thank you, Jeremiah and Xavier. And before we close out for the evening, which isn't really closing out because we have food that's going to be going around, beverages, and meet people, talk to people. We have a Lofi Poli Sci banner. Sign the banner, put your name, let your presence be known here. But we have a bunch of different people to thank. First, my entire class for helping out. The 8 people who came up here bravely to talk to you. Thank all of you for doing so. And for our teams behind the scenes, our advertising team, making flyers, putting them places. Mitch, Antonesia, Rihanna, thank you so much for putting that together. To our tables team, the 3 individuals who are running the tables. That's Macy, Darian, and Aisha. Thank you so much for everything. And don't forget to go and put your stickers next to it. What's right now the leading sustainable development goal? Climate action. Why am I not surprised? But also, we need to thank the Windsor Court Hotel for the catering and the beautiful layout. Please take advantage of it. Great food. And thank you for Death Pebble PAC for providing the venue and the cost of everything and so much more. They could not be here tonight, but they are here in spirit with us. Thank you so much to them. And to close us out a little bit, to bring everything back into perspective about our theme, does development matter? The answer is undoubtedly yes, development matters. But I think very much development matters on an individual level first. Like, we need to develop ourselves. We need to grow. We need to grow the way that we think, the things that we think about. We need to take care of ourselves, and we need to help each other. And by doing simple acts of helping ourselves and each other, that expands to helping an entire country. And that expands to helping an entire world. Like the best way to deal with development around the world is to start with ourselves and then let a chain reaction grow. Because we all know the United Nations needs our help. Everyone needs our help, people. So it starts here, and then we grow from there. But does development matter? Without a doubt, without a doubt. Well, thank you everyone for coming, and please talk with each other. We're here to talk and eat. Have a great evening. I'll see you all very soon.
I'll bring it down like